The fantasy season is almost over. So in those dynasty leagues, it's already time to start looking ahead to 2025. But I'm not here to talk about rookies. I'm going to dive into 6 players who, based on their contract situations, you should either be looking to buy or sell right now. That is right. We are looking at some contracts, one of my favorite and most underutilized parts of Dynasty when we're talking player value. We're going to start with a buy, Brenton Strange. You saw it this last week. Evan Ingram's out and he absolutely balled. He is averaging over 10 points per game in games where Evan Ingram isn't playing. Evan Ingram's potentially going to be a free agent. The Jaguars could save $6 million if they move on from the veteran tight end. We know there's potentially going to be a new head coach, maybe even a new GM. So it feels like it's a veteran player that you can afford to move on with and start afresh. That new offensive play caller is likely going to give it a bump, give this whole offense a bump. Trevor Lawrence is back. We know Brian Thomas is a superstar, but him and Brenton Strange feels like a nice 1-2 punch to build around with this Jags rebuilding roster. I'd happily pay a late second for Brenton Strange right now. That's how confident I am. He is super athletic, and that's always the type of profile I'm looking to buy. But current market, you can buy him for a third. I don't think you even have to pay that. I saw him go for 3/4 in a league just this morning. And of course, the reverse of that, Evan Ingram. A big chunk of his value is the role he plays in this offense. He's a volume monster. He finishes the tight end 2 last year. He is so reliant on scheme for his production. He's not a guy that's doing masses after the catch. And anytime a tight end hits free agency, I'm paranoid because it's just not traditionally a good home. If you remember, Austin Hooper signed that huge contract after he produced in Atlanta and he did nothing up in Chicago. I just worried that Evan Ingram could be one of those tight ends that just drifts away and we probably never hear of again. I'd happily take a late second. I'd happily take Brenton Strange straight up for Evan Ingram right now. But I think, honestly, based on name value, based on how he produced last year, you can potentially get a mid-second round pick for him. Another guy that I'm looking to buy, Jaylen Waddle. He is the 7th highest paid wide receiver in the league right now. He is locked up. This whole Miami offense is locked up. They are locked into this core. It's not going anywhere. There's talk of Mike McDaniel. He's going to be back next year. Tua is going to be back next year. Tyreek Hill, he'll be back, but he's starting to age out. We've seen this year. He's not as efficient. He's not as explosive. I think that Jaylen Waddle, off the back of a dreadful year, he's had some niggles. He's had some injuries. He's not produced. I think he could have a massive blow-up season next year. Based on current values, you can acquire him for a late first-round pick. That is a great deal for me. This is still a young, ascending superstar wide receiver in waiting, and I think that you can get him for a great value right now. Before we move on to the next 3, though, remember, if you haven't hit the subscribe button, what are you doing? You're missing out. Join the 69% of people that have subscribed to our last Dynasty video. Isaiah Likely is the next guy. You know that he had that phenomenal week 1 and then it's kind of disappeared. The problem is that this Ravens offense is very personnel dependent. They've had 3 tight ends on rotation, depending on what personnel they're using. But there's a chance, I'm not convinced, but there is a chance that Mark Andrews could be a cap casualty. The Ravens can save about £1 million if they decide to move on from the veteran. Yes, he's not had kind of the season we hope. The Ravens could do with an extra bit of cash potentially to help rebuild that defense and maybe add some additions to the offensive line. So Isaiah Likely could be a guy ready to step into a bigger role. And I just think he's a really talented player. We know that he's got the connection with Lamar. And I think that next year he could be an ascending player that you want to get in on. Keenan Allen's the next guy I just want rid of. Quite frankly, I think he's going to be a free agent this season. He is 33 in April. That is well over the age cliff. He is surviving on obscene volume right now. I don't think Chicago is going to bring him back. That makes me nervous because who knows where he's going to end up. Is he going to chase a ring? Is he going to chase one final paycheck? Current market cost is you can get him second round pick. I'd probably take 2/3 for him right now. I think I'd sell for a late second. But Keenan Allen, I'm a little bit worried that the fantasy relevant days are over. So I'd be looking to move as soon as possible. And then the final sell, Tyrone Tracy. Look, there's been a lot of hype. I love him as a prospect. I love his talent. I think he's fantastic. If this was just talent alone, I'd be all in on. But the challenge is that at the moment he's splitting time with Devin Singletary. This offense isn't good enough to justify a back that isn't seeing 80% plus of the workload. And the worrying thing is Devin Singletary is likely around in 2025. The Giants only saved 250,000 if they were to release Devin Singletary. That means he's probably going to be around. That means it's probably going to be a split workload for Tyrone Tracy. So I'd happily take a mid-second. I think you can maybe even get more than that. Some of the hype is pretty ridiculous right now. So maybe you could get an early second and move on from him. Do you disagree with any of those 6? Is there someone I've missed? Remember, let me know in the comments below. And of course, stick around because I have more Dynasty content as we move into the